Monday wiped the sweat off his forehead as he walked into his compound. The sun was hot and he was glad to be home. Church service had been long and all he wanted now was to eat and rest. His wife Vera had already set the table. The aroma of the hot jollof rice filled the small living room. "Ah, Vera, you are truly a blessing," Monday said, sitting down. "This food smells good." Vera smiled as she placed a cold bottle of water beside him. "You deserve it, my husband. You must be very tired from church." Just as Monday picked up his phone rang. He frowned and checked the caller ID. It was Pastor David. "Pastor?" Monday muted. He hesitated before answering. "Good afternoon, sir." "Brother Monday," Pastor David's voice was urgent. "Please, come back to church now. It's very important." Monday's heart skipped a beat. "Pastor, is everything okay?" "No time to explain, my brother. Just come now. It's a matter of great urgency." Vera was confused. "What is it?" she said. "Pastor David said I should come back to church," Monday replied, standing up reluctantly. "But you just came back home. At least eat first." Vera protested. "I know, my dear, but it sounds serious. I will eat when I return." He picked up his phone and car keys, then left in a hurry. That was the last time Vera saw her husband alive. Monday arrived at the church, confused but obedient. The compound was quiet, too quiet. It was unusual for a Sunday afternoon. He pushed open the main door and stepped inside. The church hall was dimly lit, the only light coming from the altar area. Pastor David stood there, smiling. "Ah, Brother Monday, you came quickly," the pastor said, his voice calm. "Yes, Pastor," Monday replied. "What is the urgent matter?" Pastor David gestured to a single chair on the altar. "Sit down first, my brother. We need to pray before we talk." Monday hesitated. Something felt off. But this was his pastor, his spiritual father. He could not suspect him. He nodded and walked forward. The altar had been cleaned, the rug looking fresh and undisturbed. The chair was placed directly at the center. Monday sat down. The moment his body touched the seat, the ground beneath him collapsed. His heart jumped to his throat as he felt himself sinking. Before he could scream, strong hands grabbed him from beneath. "Pastor!" Monday called out, but his voice was swallowed by the dust. Within seconds, men appeared from shadows. They moved quickly, shoveling sand over him, pressing him down. His arms flailed, but the soil covered his mouth. Monday tried to struggle, but it was useless. The weight of the earth crushed his movements. The lungs bent. Darkness took over. Pastor David watched in silence. His face showed no emotion as the men mixed cement and poured it over the grave. The sound of the wet cement covering the soil was the last thing Monday never heard. Minutes later, the rug was placed back. The church looked the same as before. Pastor David dusted his hands. "Good job. No one will know about this." Vera waited for her husband, but he wasn't forthcoming. Her heart pounded. It had been hours since Monday left for church, and he hadn't returned. She had called his phone multiple times, but it kept ringing without an answer. By evening, fear gripped her chest. Monday was not the type to stay out late without informing her. She picked up her phone and dialed again. Still no response. She decided to go to church. Maybe he was still there. When she arrived, the place was empty. The lights were off and the doors were locked. She knocked, hoping someone would answer. Nothing. Pastor David, she called out. Silence. She dialed Pastor David's number. "Ah, Sister Vera," Pastor David answered in a calm voice. "How are you?" Pastor, please, where is my husband? Vera asked, her voice shaking. He came back to church after your call, but he hasn't returned home. There was a slight pause before the pastor responded. Brother Monday, I didn't see him. Vera's stomach dropped. What do you mean, Pastor? He said you called him for an urgent meeting. I did no such thing. Pastor David replied smoothly. Maybe he went somewhere else. Vera felt like the walls were closing in on her. Her hands trembled. Pastor, are you sure? She whispered. Yes, my daughter. Pray and have faith. He will return. Tears filled her eyes as she ended the call. She could feel it in her bones. Something terrible had happened to her husband. The next morning, she went straight to the police station. My husband is missing, she told the officers. He was last seen at the church after Pastor David called him. The officer in charge leaned forward. Did he take his phone with him? Yes, Vera said quickly. The officer nodded. Good, we can track it. Vera felt a spark of hope. Maybe they would find him. Maybe he was just trapped somewhere, but nothing could prepare her for what was coming next. The police officer tapped on his computer, his eyes scanning the screen. Vera sat across from him, gripping the edge of the desk. Madam, you said your husband had his phone with him? Yes, sir, Vera answered quickly. He never goes anywhere without it. The officer turned to his colleague, tracked the phone's last location. Minutes passed. The silence in the room felt heavy. Then the officer frowned. This can't be right, he muttered. Vera's heart pounded. What is it? The officer stared at the screen. The phone is still in the church. Vera's eyes widened. What? But I went there yesterday. The place was locked. That means the phone never left the church, another officer said. The room grew colder. Vera suddenly felt like she couldn't breathe. Sir, she said, her voice shaking. Does that mean my husband is still there? The officers exchanged looks. We need to visit the church immediately, the senior officer said. Within minutes, Vera and the police officers were on their way. Sirens wailed as they sped towards the church. Pastor David was about to get the biggest shock of his life. Pastor David stood on the altar, his voice echoing through the church. Brethren, we must have faith, even in difficult times, he preached, raising his Bible, for the Lord sees all things. The congregation nodded, murmuring their agreements. No one noticed the police officers quietly entering the church, Vera leading them. The officers walked straight to the altar, their movements sharp and purposeful. Some church members turned in confusion. Pastor David paused mid-sentence when he saw them, a nervous smile across his face. Officers, welcome. How can we help you? The senior officer stepped forward. We are investigating a missing persons case. Pastor David frowned. Missing person? Monday, Vera said, her voice shaking. My husband, he was last seen here. Murmurs spread through the church. The congregation exchanged confused glances. The officer pulled out a small tracking device. We traced his phone. It's still inside this church. Pastor David's smile twitched. His phone? That is strange. Maybe he forgot it here. The officer walked around the altar, watching the screen on his device. The signal grew stronger as he moved closer to the pulpit. Then he stopped. His eyes narrowed at the ground. The cement looked fresh, too fresh. The officer turned to the pastor. Why is this ground newly cemented? Pastor David didn't blink. That spot was cracking. We had to repair it. The officer's gaze didn't move. He looked back at the tracking device. The signal was pointing directly beneath the cement. The church was silent. Vera took a shaky step forward. "My husband is under there, isn't he?" Pastor David opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. The officer's voice was firm. "We are going to break this floor." The truth was seconds away from being uncovered. The officer signaled to his men, "Dig it up." They grabbed shovels and struck the cemented ground. The loud crack echoed through the silent church. Some congregation members gasped. Others stood frozen, watching in shock. Pastor David took a step forward, raising his hands. "Officers, this is the house of God. You cannot destroy the altar." The senior officer's eyes remained cold. "Pastor, if you have nothing to hide, let us proceed." Pastor David hesitated. His fingers twitched. His eyes darted around the church. Sweat formed on his forehead. Then he sighed and took a deep breath. "Go ahead," he said, his voice suddenly calm. "I am a man of God. I have nothing to hide." The officers dug faster. Dust filled the air as they removed the cement and sand. Within minutes, a foul stench hit them. Vera's knees weakened. She covered her mouth. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" And then they saw it. A human hand. The congregation were shocked. Some people ran outside. Others clutched their chests in horror. The men worked quickly, removing the rest of the sand. Monday's lifeless body lay beneath, his phone still in his pocket. Vera collapsed on the floor, wailing, "You killed my husband. Pastor, you killed my husband." The officer turned to Pastor David. "Explain yourself." Pastor David took a deep breath, adjusting his robe. His face was blank, as if he felt nothing. "I did it," he said. Then a church member whispered, "Pastor, why?" Pastor David's lip curled into a small smile. "Because I wanted my church to be famous. I wanted people to crowd my ministry. And what is the best way to do that than a sacrifice?" He said. The church erupted into chaos. People screamed. Others ran for the doors. The officer didn't waste time. "Arrest him!" Handcuffs clicked around Pastor David's wrists. He didn't fight. He didn't speak. He only smiled. As they led him away, his voice echoed in the now empty church. "The church will grow, you will see." Vera fell to the ground, sobbing. She had found her husband, but at what cost?